I give examples showing that academics and professionals adapt biblical teachings. In Genesis 1, God assured the quality of everything he created and said they were good. Various professions use quality assurance for process improvement and regulatory compliance. Genesis 2:21-22 says God caused Adam to fall into a deep sleep. Medicine calls this general anesthesia. God removed one of Adam's ribs. Medicine calls this surgery. God put the rib into Eve. Medicine calls this organ transplant. In Genesis 11:1-9, God caused confusion amongst people who were united against his will, thereby stopping them from building the Tower of Babel. Political science calls this divide and rule. It is included in the political philosophy called Machiavellianism. In Genesis 13:14-15, God told Abraham to look and that he would give him and his descendants forever all the land that Abraham saw. Life coaching studies calls this envisioning. Leviticus 13:4, Leviticus 13:46, Leviticus 13:54, Leviticus 15:13, and 2 Kings 15:5 require distancing and the isolation of people with infectious diseases in order to control the spread of the diseases. Public health studies calls this quarantine and social distancing. We saw this with coronavirus. Job 26:7 teaches that God hangs the earth on nothing. Physics calls this the law of gravity or the law of universal gravitation. Isaiah 40:22 and Job 26:10 teach about the circle of the earth. Geographical sciences say the earth rotates on its axis. Habakkuk 2:2 says right division. Management studies calls this vision and mission statement. Zechariah 2:5 teaches on protection using a wall of fire. Computer studies calls this firewall protection against viruses, malware, and Trojans. Malachi 3:5 teaches that wage earners should not be cheated. Economics calls this minimum wage. Elijah discipled Elisha. Jesus discipled 12 men. Paul discipled Timothy. Training and personal development calls this mentoring. In Matthew 19:28, Jesus taught on people sitting on 12 thrones involved in judgment. Law calls this jurisprudence and using a jury of 12 people. In Matthew 25:14-29, Jesus told the parable of the talents and taught that those who have get more. Sociology calls this the Matthew principle or Matthew effect of cumulative advantage. In Mark 10:45, Jesus said he came to serve, not to be served. He washed his disciples' feet, which was a job of very low status done by servants in biblical times. Leadership studies calls this servant leadership. In John 21:1-14, Jesus cooked for his disciples. Gender studies correctly teaches equality and inclusion and teach that a woman's place is not in the kitchen. In Luke 14:28, Jesus teaches that we should first count the cost and ensure we have sufficient funds to complete a project before starting it. Accounting and finance calls this budgeting. Acts 2 teaches that Jesus' disciples achieved their purpose via working together in unity. Human resource management calls this team spirit, and they say team means T, together, E, everyone, A, achieves, M, more. Yes, indeed. Together, everyone achieves more. The Bible told us that first, not human resource management. 2 Timothy 1:7 says, God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. Psychiatry calls this having insight, indicative of a powerful mind. Cognitive behavior therapy, life coaching, psychotherapy, and personal development studies adapt the teaching in 2 Timothy 1:7, and they call it empowerment. The Bible teaches us to control our thoughts, 2 Corinthians 10:4-5, and renew our minds, Romans 12:2, and Ephesians 4:23. Positive psychology, neuroscience, philosophy, theology, and religious studies call this mind power and mind renewal. 1 Timothy 5:23 says, use a little wine because of your stomach and your frequent illnesses. Pharmacology and medicinal chemistry learned this medicinal use of alcohol, which they call ethanol, and include it in medicines and antiseptics. Various Bible verses, including Proverbs 4:26-27, Isaiah 40:3-4, and Luke 3:4-6, teach about a straight line. Geometry and mathematics say a straight line is the shortest distance between 2 points. Genesis 1:1-2 shows that God first sorted out water, and his spirit hovered over the waters before he created every other thing, thereby showing that water is the single most important thing that all living things need to survive. Biology teaches that water is the single most important thing that all living things need to survive, even microorganisms and desert plants. Breathing is necessary, but in 2020, scientists discovered the first animal, Salminicola, that doesn't breathe. Feeding is necessary too, but some living things don't feed in the traditional sense, and some microbes do not have a digestive tract. But no living thing can survive without any water ever. Genesis 3:8 says Adam and Eve heard the Lord God walking in the Garden of Eden. God singled out walking, being the only physical exercise he exemplified to Adam and Eve. Jesus walked a lot. Health and fitness professionals recommend various exercises for overall health and well-being, but say walking is the single most effective exercise. People wrongly say that there were academic subjects and ancient scholars before Jesus Christ. The so-called before Christ, BC, dating system is misleading. John 1:1-14 shows that Jesus has been alive from before the world was created. It is of remarkable merit, however, that of all people who have ever lived, the world uses Jesus Christ to determine time. Psalm 34:8 says, taste and see that the Lord is good. Philosophy calls this practicality and logic. The world says the proof of the pudding is in the eating. Various professions use the biblical taste and see principle to show that the true value of something can only be judged by the results. Examples of the professions include, but are not limited to, engineering, education, where there is the use of educational assessments, product design, science, and research. God is the only expert. You too can learn from him. Yes, please. Taste and see that the Lord is good indeed. God bless you. Kindly please share this video. Many thanks. I am Dr. Innocent Izamoje.